Welcome back to another episode of the Scran Line. I'm Nick and today we are going to be making a Black Forest Pavlova. If you don't know what a Pavlova is, it is kind of this baked meringue and it's kind of marshmallowy in the center and crispy on the outside. Super duper delicious. Here in Australia during the summer, we love our pavlovas at pretty much any get together, especially Christmas. So I wanted to put kind of my own twist on a pavlova. So traditionally a pavlova has whipped cream on top and sour or tart fruit on top. I'm going to be making kind of like a chocolate swirl pavlova, and we're going to be popping lots of chocolate on top and some cherries. Before we get stuck into today's recipe, if you're not subscribed to this channel already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell icon next to it so that YouTube notifies you as soon as there's a new video. Let's clean our bowl with some white vinegar or lemon juice. Once you've done that, let it dry before you add your egg whites into your mixing bowl. Now today I'm going to be using Peggy, my stand mixer, but if you don't have your own Peggy, you can just use an electric hand mixer. I'm using the whisk attachment to whip my egg whites up to soft peaks. Once we reach soft peaks, we're going to very slowly add our sugar into our egg whites while our mixer is on high speed. So adding it in slowly means that you allow that sugar to slowly be introduced into the egg whites and kind of dissolve into the egg whites before you add the next spoon of sugar. If you add all your sugar at once, for example, then you risk having a very grainy pavlova and it's not very nice to eat when you're biting sugar crystals. Once you have all your sugar in there and you've continued mixing for a couple minutes, we're going to stop our mixer and add some more white vinegar and some cornstarch. Now that cornstarch is going to stabilize our pavlova so that it actually turns out to be a little bit marshmallowy in the center as well. Continue mixing for another couple more minutes, and when you can feel that there's no sugar grains in between your fingers, when you run the pavlova in between your fingers, that's when you know it's done, and it should also appear thick and glossy. Now I actually forgot to add the vanilla in here, so I added it after I tested that it was thick and glossy and smooth. That's completely fine, but it's best to add it in with your vinegar and cornstarch. Now this next bit I'm super excited about because we're going to end up with this cool kind of swirly chocolate meringue. So we're going to be dusting or sifting in some cocoa powder, and I'm going to be using a spatula to kind of run that through the pavlova. You don't want to mix it all the way through, you want to have streaks. So when we spoon it onto our baking tray, it's going to look super cool and streaky. To actually prepare your baking tray, we are going to be cutting out some baking paper. We're going to be tracing around the plate with the pen to create a circle. You want to flip that baking paper over so that the actual pen side is under the meringue, not on top of the meringue. And then to stick it to the actual baking tray, we're going to add little dabs of meringue on each corner of the baking tray and place the baking paper on top. I'm using a spoon to spoon my streaky chocolate meringue onto my baking tray. So we're actually going to be making 2 of these meringues. So you want to split your mixture in half and you're going to have 2 trays or 2 meringues, pavlovas. It doesn't need to look perfect, guys, but try to get it in a nice circle shape so that both of your pavlova meringues are the same size. Once you've got it looking right, dust it with a little bit more cocoa powder and pop them in the oven to bake. Once you have finished baking after about an hour, they do take a while, you want to let them cool down in the oven. Don't open the oven door because your pavlovas will collapse. Now on this pavlova and in the middle, we're going to be adding some chocolate sauce. Now my chocolate sauce recipe is absolutely amazing. It's super easy to make, but we're going to be spiking this with a bit of cherry liqueur. That's completely optional. You don't want to obviously make it with that if you're serving it to kids or people who can't have alcohol, but I'm going to add it in there anyway. We're gonna microwave that for 20 seconds at a time, mixing each time until it's nice and smooth. You wanna set that aside to cool at room temperature, and we're gonna move on to whipping our cream. So to whip our cream, we wanna add our cream into a large mixing bowl along with some vanilla extract and cherry liqueur, optional, but recommended, and we're gonna whip this to stiff peaks. Now that we've got everything ready to put our pavlova together, let's actually put it together. I've just popped my first pavlova layer onto my serving plate. Now, the best way to actually get your pavlova off the baking tray and off the baking paper, because these things can be a little bit on the delicate side, is to actually place your hand or your palm on top of the pavlova, spin the tray around gently, support the pavlova with a wide hand, and then take the baking tray off and peel the baking paper away. Then you want to gently put it onto your serving plate, and that's how you get it on there. Now, it can be a little bit tricky. An alternative to that is to carefully lift up the pavlova with the baking paper off the baking tray, and then pop it on top of your serving plate and try and gently slide away that baking paper from underneath the pavlova. We're gonna pop half the cream on top of that pavlova. Now you can see that my pavlova is still a little bit on the delicate side and it looks like it's collapsed under the weight of that cream. That's completely fine because this pavlova, once it's all put together and it's chilled, before it's served, is gonna kind of all meld together anyway into something really delicious. So it's not all about seeing those layers like distinct from each other. It's about experiencing something super delicious. We're gonna drizzle some of that chocolate sauce on top, and then we're going to sprinkle some chopped maraschino cherries on top. You wanna add your second layer of pavlova, and then you want to repeat that with the cream and the chocolate. And we are going to finish this off by dipping some fresh cherries into some pink glitter. So this glitter is edible. It's from Fancy Sprinkles. It's brand new and it's absolutely amazing. So I just simply dipped my fresh cherries that I've cleaned and dried into the glitter and then placed them on top of my pavlova. And guys, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to grab the recipe, it's going to be over on my Facebook page. So look for the actual video on my Facebook page and you'll find the written recipe there. If you're new to this channel, guys, make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you all on the next episode of the Scran Line.